So tell me, what are some of the advantages of doing a clinical trial at Intermountain versus another organization?
Absolutely. Intermountain is dedicated to providing the best care and allowing people to live the healthiest lives possible. And so we have some of the best technology integrated into ensuring we can run these clinical trials. We have some of the leading individuals in clinical trials. And we are dedicated to working very hard to providing great experiences for our patients. Clinical trials offers a new dimension to care. When a patient's diagnosed, they don't want to hear numbers. They don't want to hear statistics because there's only one that matters, and that's themselves. Their quality of life, the quality of life of their mother, their father, their brother, their sister, that's the only number that matters. And so they want the best possible outcome. A lot of times when a patient is diagnosed with cancer, they'll come into our clinic and they've already done quite a bit of research. They know quite a bit about the treatment options, the standard of care options, and the outcomes. And they also have looked into clinical trials. And so by offering clinical trials, we're able to offer patients another dimension of care, a valuable dimension of care, where they can come and make that choice their own and be a part of something greater than themselves. Because that data is used to help others.
So we talked a little bit about a timeline. What is the timeline for a clinical trial, and why is that important to a patient?
It's great because being on a clinical trial, we're held to a specific standard on the data points that we need to capture. And how that translates to a patient is standard of care. You'd be coming in maybe once a month to get assessments, and if anything went wrong, you'd be calling your physician and trying to get an appointment. With clinical trials, we want to stay ahead of the curve. We want to know what any outcomes are, positive or negative. We want to be ahead of the curve. We want to know immediately. So a lot of our testing and the timelines for clinical trials are weekly. Patients are seen weekly for safety assessments, biological assessments, and different things. Something you don't get in standard of care because the patient volume is so high. In clinical trials, we're able to see patients more often. We're able to be more personal with them. It's very hard not to get personally involved with the patient when you're seeing them once a week for 4 to 5 weeks. And so the upside to that as well is the value, because most of these assessments aren't standard of care. These sponsors of the clinical trials understand that, and they take on the financial burden of that. So patients are receiving greater care at a higher value. So they're not having to pay any more for better care, and they're getting access to therapeutics that will someday be the standard of care, and they're getting access to these drugs for free or cheap.
So you mentioned they're sponsors for these clinical trials, so the patients aren't even paying for these clinical trials. Yes?
Most of the time, anything that's standard of care, anything that would happen even if they weren't on a clinical trial would still be the patient's responsibility. But everything above and beyond that, the sponsors of the trial, they cover. And specifically, the most important is the drug.
Many of
us have gone to the pharmacy and seen what an antibiotic costs to get treated for something that we have going on right now, and there's shock. But in cancer, the drugs are even more expensive. And by offering clinical trials, we're able to offer, specifically in precision medicine, now we're offering access to therapeutics that are going to be covered by the drug company because they want to see how well they work. But so they're free, but these therapeutics are highly tested, and they're targeted to the specific disease for the patient that's enrolled on the trial. So patients are able to get access to cheap to free medicine that's targeted directly for them.
So if a patient wants to get involved, how do they get involved with the clinical trial?
It's great. There's a screening process, and we have to make sure, that the patient qualifies for the trial, and that involves many aspects, tumor markers and disease staging, and ensuring that the patient can be on the trial. So the best thing to do is to give us a call, come into the clinic, and our research coordinators and our clinical staff will be very thorough in talking with you and educating the patient about the trial, what it involves, and ensuring we get all the screening done most of the time the screening's usually free as well. So we will do our best to talk to you about the trial and the requirements and then screen you for the trial.
Great.